You know, getting a new medicine from the lab to the pharmacy is one of the most complex journeys in all of science. But what if I told you that its success has less to do with a single eureka moment and, well, everything to do with a hidden global architecture? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that very blueprint.
So let's chew on that for a second. It's not nearly enough for a new drug to be safe and effective. All the mountains of data that prove it, they have to be organized into a clear, logical, and convincing story. And it turns out, the structure of that story is absolutely everything.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the big picture, what this global blueprint is all about. Then, we're going to deconstruct its 5 core modules. We'll get into the 3 main pillars of scientific evidence, see how they're all woven together into a scientific story, and finally, connect it all back to why this super organized structure matters to every single patient out there.
Right, so why even create a global blueprint in the first place? Well, just imagine the chaos before this existed. A company develops a breakthrough drug, right? But to get it approved in, say, Japan, Europe, and the US, they'd have to create 3 completely different, massive submission packages. The waste of time, the duplication of effort, it would be absolutely staggering. That's the exact problem this was designed to solve.
And here's the solution: the Common Technical Document, or the CTD for short. The best way to think of it is like a universal language for drug applications. It's this internationally agreed-upon format that lets a company build one core package of data that regulators from Tokyo to Brussels to Washington, D.C. can all understand. It was and is a massive leap forward in efficiency.
So, what does this blueprint actually look like? How is it structured? Well, the entire CTD is built around 5 distinct sections, or modules. And to really get it, let's stick with our architecture metaphor. Think of these modules as the 5 floors of a building, where each floor has a very, very specific purpose.
And here they are, our 5 floors. You've got Module 1 for regional info, 2 for the summaries, 3 for quality, 4 for non-clinical data, and 5 for clinical data. This simple, logical structure is the key that lets regulators navigate what could be millions of pages of information without getting hopelessly lost. Now let's really get into the foundation of this whole thing.
All right, we're now zeroing in on the absolute heart of the application, Modules 3, 4, and 5. You can think of these as the 3 great pillars of evidence. This is where all the raw science lives, and each of these pillars is designed to answer a critical question that every single regulator on the planet needs an answer to.
This is the very first question on any regulator's mind. I mean, before we can even talk about whether a drug works, we have to know, can you actually make it? And more importantly, can you make it the exact same way with the exact same results every single time?
And that is where Module 3 comes in. It's all about quality, and it covers what the industry calls CMC. That's chemistry, manufacturing, and controls. In simple terms, this is the drug's master recipe book. It proves you know exactly what's in the pill, that you can make it perfectly every time, and that it won't fall apart on a pharmacy shelf. Believe me, if you can't prove this, nothing else matters.
Okay, so you've proven you can make the drug consistently. The next logical question has to be, does it even work in a biological system? And crucially, is it safe enough to even think about testing it in people?
That's exactly what Module 4 is all about. It holds all the preclinical data, so all the work done in labs and in animal models. This is where scientists show the drug does what it's supposed to do and critically provide the safety data that gives regulators the confidence to say, okay, yes, you can now test this in humans.
And here it is. This is the ultimate question, the one that this entire multi-year billion-dollar process has been building towards. After all the lab work, all the preclinical studies, does this medicine actually help patients, and are its benefits truly worth the risks? And you guessed it, Module 5 is where that answer lives. This is almost always the largest, most complex part of the entire submission. It contains every bit of data from the human clinical trials. Every single piece of efficacy and safety data is laid bare right here for some of the most intense scrutiny imaginable.
Okay, so we have these 3 massive pillars of data, right? Module 3, 4, and 5. But data by itself, it's not a story. It's just numbers and charts. So how does a regulator possibly make sense of it all? How do you connect the dots between the manufacturing process, the lab animals, and the human patients? Well, this is where the real storytelling begins.
And that storytelling is the job of Module 2. Honestly, this quote says it all. Module 2 isn't just a summary. It's the persuasive narrative that frames all the evidence.
It's the core argument. And getting it right can literally make or break the entire application. It's that important.
What's so cool about this is how Module 2 acts as a bridge. It takes all that super detailed, highly technical data from those 3 pillars we just talked about, and it synthesizes it. It weaves together the findings from manufacturing, preclinical, and clinical studies into one cohesive, compelling scientific argument for why this drug should be approved.
Now, this blueprint wasn't carved in stone back in the age of paper and filing cabinets. Of course not. It has evolved. So let's quickly look at 2 key adaptations: how it went digital, and how this global system has a really clever way of handling local rules.
So the first huge leap forward was the move from paper to the electronic CTD, or eCTD. The difference is just night and day. I mean, instead of shipping actual pallets of paper that reviewers had to flip through manually, they now get a dynamic, hyperlinked, and fully searchable digital file. This didn't just revolutionize the review process, it totally changed how applications are updated over a drug's entire life cycle.
Okay, so remember how modules 2 through 5 are that globally harmonized core? Well, module 1 is the really clever exception. This is what we call the local touch. It's basically a container for all the specific administrative paperwork that's unique to each country. Things like the specific application forms for the FDA or the patient leaflet formatted just for Japan. It's how one global dossier can adapt to many different local needs.
All right, we've walked through the entire architecture, from the deep scientific foundations all the way up to the localized finishes. But now let's zoom all the way out and connect this complex structure back to what really, truly matters: the patient.
After all this talk of modules and formats and submissions, you might be thinking, okay, so is this thing just a massive pile of bureaucratic paperwork? It's a fair question, but to see it that way would be to miss the entire point.
Because here's the real takeaway. The CTD isn't just a document. It is the defining, structured story of a medicine's entire life. It's the rigorous, transparent framework that ensures every single treatment that reaches a patient is built on a proven foundation of quality, safety, and efficacy. So no, it's not just an architecture of data. It's the architecture of trust.